Mama Goose offers a safe platform where there is no topic off limits, no opinion is looked down on. We aim to help you through those tough and sometimes unexpected situations. Am I an expert? Heck no. I simply speak straight from experience and tend not to sugarcoat. So come along and check out the Mama Goose Show.
Welcome to the Mama Goose Show. Welcome. I am Mama Goose. Yes, I am. And we have an awesome show getting ready for you on tonight. I am just going to, hallelujah, just thank God for a moment for this opportunity, because what I did was I had to cancel this episode because I had an emergency, and I just thank God. I thank God that my sister was able to reschedule before the month was out, because we are still celebrating the month of May, right? And so it's May 31st. It's the last day of the month, and we are still celebrating motherhood. Yes, we are. My lighting is a little bit off, but hey, nonetheless, we're gonna work with everything else. And I have a special guest. At least she is special to me. And yes, she has been here before. Amen. She is not a stranger to the Mama Goose Show. She has graced us previously to with her book, a muted cage. And so if you haven't gotten your copy, please, by all means, just go to Amazon.com and look up A Muted Cage by Milgaros-Lotus Romero and get your copy. What are you waiting on? And so again, welcome to a new episode of the Mama Goose Show, where we aim, as you heard, to just give you a safe platform to talk about any type of issues. We are not judging anyone. We are not looking down on any opinions. And so before I bring my guest on, again, I just want to introduce her. She is my beloved sister, Milgaros-Lotus Romero. And welcome, my dear sister.
Hi, good evening.
Hi. I am
doing
well.
Great.
Good. And it's good to see you again.
Thank you.
And so, of course, this just gonna be, no real question answer, because I, like myself, consider myself a mother of many. And
Yes.
and from my understanding, you kind of consider yourself that, though you do not have any biological kids. So we are looking at it from two different angles, which I think is awesome. So what I am going to do is I am going to kind of let you start and share your story, because I've shared mine before a little bit, but I want you to share your story.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm very happy and very blessed to be here. It is a privilege and an honor to be in this platform tonight to share a little bit about our experiences, because my experience is your experience and the experience of many. I do not have any biological children. I was not blessed with that gift. However, I have many people, even older than I am sometimes, that consider me a mom. I've been babysitting since I was 5 years old. And I was always babysitting even other people's children, because I started with my siblings. But I also babysat a lot of children for a lot of people and tutored others. Even though I was 9, 10 years old, I was responsible enough, and children would always draw to me.
even at church when they had babies that were crying all the time, I would go pick them up and they would stop crying. Their mom is like, I need to take you home with me because you make my baby fall asleep and I hold my baby and that's my baby, but they're still crying. So I don't know what it is about you that you do this or how you do it, but I believe that it's just something that God puts in us. I didn't know that I would never have children, but God did know. And I think that along the way, He just blessed me to feel loved as though I was a mother.
Mhm.
And so that was my experience growing up. I actually was very devastated because my dream was like when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. And this is a little crazy. I've shared it before. But my dream was to have 12 children of
Wow.
my own.
12.
Mhm.
Yes, plus an orphanage.
So I didn't just want
Interesting.
12 children. I wanted 12 of my own.
Plus an orphanage. Because my thing was that because of the abuse I was feeling in my home,
I was like, first of all, I didn't believe that happiness or love existed, but I felt it inside of me because I used to love my parents. I used to love my siblings. So my idea was really that I wanted to have
many children, that I can love them. And maybe even though I was thinking I was going to prove to children that they can be loved and that there is love,
I think it was really trying to convince myself that
there is love and that children can be loved. And although I was loved by my parents, it was a very strange kind of love because in the midst of that love, I was severely hurt.
and I started having my menstruation when I was 11 years old, and it was horrible. A lot of pain, a
Yes.
lot of stuff. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And then I started hemorrhaging, and it would last 2, 3 months sometimes.
Wow.
So I was very anemic, and they took me to the doctors, and they couldn't find what was wrong with me. And they would always say, maybe it's the trauma that she has experienced. And one day a doctor said, you will never have children. And I was 11 years old when he said that to
Oh,
me.
wow.
And I was so devastated. I was like, how can he say that? How can he even say that to me? I'm not even a teenager, you know?
Right.
So I was suffering and I carried this thing with me. And I used to get very depressed. In addition to the abuse, now I had to deal with this reality that I would never have children. So, of course, you are in church and you are seeking God and you know that God could do whatever He wants to do. And you
Wow.
are expecting, well, it doesn't have to be what the doctors have said. It could be what God said, right?
That's
So,
right.
so there was one time that I was already like 15 years old and I was thinking about some of my friends because I always had older people as friends and how they had their babies and how their babies would fall in love with me. And I was like so depressed. And I remember I was crying and I couldn't take it. It's like, God, if I'm not going to be a mother, why am I here? You know?
Hmm.
And I remember that God spoke to me and He gave me, I'm going to read to you this poem that He gave me. And I was like, okay, wow. It says, I called it He Said. And he said, they said that life would never form in my womb. They said that my insides were not equipped for motherhood. They said that my womb was dead and I would never be a mother. Picking up the pieces of my lonely and broken heart, I questioned and wondered why. Then I smelled a sweet scent. I felt a soothing warmth. I heard a soft, melodious voice, a whisper. Who said?
a mother? He asked.
Mm.
Rejoice, for more are the children of the infertile woman. Look around you and see your children. You shower them with love. You make time to listen. You show how much you care. You nourish them with kind words. He said, to many of them, you are the best mother of all. To some of them, you are the only mother they know.
Wow.
And when God gave me that, it didn't comfort me. Because I realized he was saying, you're not going to have children. So I was not really comforted by it at the time, keeping it real, it was
Right.
like, I wanted to hear that you were going to do a miracle, but this is not going in that direction. That is not what I wanted to hear from you. Anyway.
What's funny is, honestly, I didn't want any kids. When I was growing up, I literally did not want any kids whatsoever. And I actually thought that I couldn't have kids for the simple reason I was not on birth control, but I was doing things that, that makes children. And it just seemed like it never would happen. So it was like, good. I don't want any children. But when that moment hit, I was like, okay, well, I'm getting ready to be a mother. But I can tell you, I have had to struggle with some, this is real talk, and
Yes.
I don't cut shade. I have had to struggle with having 5 abortions.
Yes.
Okay. Because I really didn't want, I got pregnant right after my oldest son. I mean, literally, he wasn't even a year old, and I had an abortion, and so I'm out there just being promiscuous and like, okay, I don't know who the daddy is, so I'm not going to bring a child into this world. I don't know. Those were my thoughts. And when I became, trying to get a relationship with God, I struggled with what I did. It's like, wow, God, I did this. I took the life of 5 babies, but then I turn around when I moved to Douglasville, I didn't expect to have to open up my home to other people's children.
Yes.
I didn't. It was like, I mean, literally, like almost, you can say almost the first maybe year or 2 years that I moved here, I had one of my son's friends living with me, so it wasn't planned. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's like, it's like, I have an aunt who, like yourself, doesn't have any biological children. But the son that she has, you can't tell her that's not her son.
Yes.
You can't tell her that that's not her grandbaby.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, it's like, it's a gift. For me, I look at it now like being able to have a child, it's a gift. But even if you're not able to have a child, if God has placed other children in your life for you to show love, support, care, then guess what you're doing?
Yes.
You're giving those motherly characteristics. So you're doing motherly things. You know what I'm saying? So
yes.
Those 12 children that you wanted to have, you got them.
I got plenty more.
But
in my first marriage, I got pregnant. And I was like, okay, so maybe God changed his mind. And about a month and a half, I had a miscarriage.
Wow.
And I was so devastated. I was like, okay. But at the same time, things were not going the way they were supposed to go in the marriage. And when it happened at the beginning, I was hurt and I was suffering. But then I realized, okay, maybe if I shift my focus to understanding that God knows all things.
Yeah.
And because he knows best, and I don't know what awaits me later on.
Mm-hmm.
I have to comfort myself and accept that God's plan is bigger than my plan, bigger than my desires.
And of course, it took me some time for me to be able to adjust to this. Sometimes we think that we make a choice and it's good, and it's good at final, and we already have it handled. So later on, there was something that happened. There was this lady that had 2 children, and she put those children in the car, and I think it was because her boyfriend didn't want to deal with children.
Mhm.
And listen, when they said that this car had been hijacked and that the children were in the back seat, I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And of course, and I said, of course, because this happened a lot and we're doing real talk here. The
Mhm.
woman said that it was a black guy that
Mhm.
hit her and
Yeah.
robbed her car and took the children. I prayed. I mean, I was on my knees praying, I don't know how many hours, begging God to give this man a heart of flesh. Praying for him to at least put these children on the side of the road where somebody can find them, not hurt them. But I tell you what, oh my goodness, when the news came back that it was the woman that actually pushed that car into a river and that those babies died and drowned, I was angry at God. I got so angry at God. I couldn't understand. I was like, why do you give a woman like this children
Mhm.
and you don't allow me that all I want to do is love on kids? Why? I was so frustrated. I remember it took me about a week before I could get out of bed to do anything because I was so frustrated, so angry, so hurt, and at the same time carrying the grief of these babies that
Yeah.
died. And sometimes we really think that being a mother is having a child.
Right.
But how many times have you heard of a story of a child dealing with cancer or some disease or some kind of infirmity in their body or being shot or something that happens to them and you grieve for them? You don't even know them,
Right.
but your
Yes.
heart grieves for them
Yes.
because I think most women, I don't want to say all women, because some women might get offended because they're not really maternal, but most women, I think, are mothers. We mother our husbands, our brothers, our nephews. We mother other people's children. And so I have been so blessed that, especially like at the church, I started being a Sunday school teacher when I was 16. And I was the director of the children's services. They used to have their own services like the grown-ups.
Mhm.
And I used to be the director for this. So I used to deal with these kids. And sometimes God would give me such experiences with these children. I would have children that were so troubled. They would beat on their moms. They would curse really bad words that their parents would be like, where did they even hear this? Because we don't curse at home. They've been Christians since they were born, and they had these demonic things. And most of the time, people would pray on the children and rebuke, but we sometimes need a little more. And I think when God puts his love in front of us for us to transmit to these children, it's a really good combination with the prayer and rebuking and everything else.
Because they're
But
feeling the love.
it's
Yeah.
like I was telling my niece this morning or maybe yesterday that sometimes we decide that, okay, well, I'm not going to do this anymore and I'm not going to say this anymore, and we leave it there. Yet the Bible speaks about how the Spirit leaves the man and goes into dry places and whatnot and come back and he finds it empty. So if we know this knowledge that he finds it empty and he's like, okay, well, I'm going to bring me some friends with me, right?
Mhm.
Well, okay, if that is the case, when we rebuke, we should replenish. We should do something to replace because if you drink your cup and I never fill it back again, you're gonna remain thirsty, right?
Right.
And that is my thing, that for some reason, even though I was 14, 15, 16, dealing with these children, God put that inside of me. People would preach that message a whole lot. And
Okay.
I didn't understand, but God would give me certain revelations within certain messages. And when He gave me that, I was like, okay, so we need to pour something into these children. We can't just let them go walk away, and because they
Oh, you froze up on me, dear. Can you hear me?
so
Oh, there we go. Okay.
you know, so to me it's like, okay, so that is something that I adopted and started doing for the
Okay.
yes. Although I was never blessed to have a child, and I always wanted to be in the room. I wanted to be in the room where somebody was giving birth. And I wasn't expecting that my youngest sister was going to get pregnant, but she did. And this was going to be her third child. So she came to Miami, and I came down from Washington. She was waiting for me. She's like, I'm not going to give birth until you get here. And I was like, my goodness, what does that even mean? So I rushed out because she was in labor already, but she was holding on until I got there. And she gave me the greatest gift, the greatest surprise, to allow me to be in the room with her.
Wow.
And, I saw her, she was like crying and suffering. And she has always been my baby because she was born when I was 5 years old.
Okay.
And from that time, it's like she became, at that age, she was like my dolly. I would have to climb inside of her crib to shake her when she was crying, because I was a child myself, but she was my baby. So I saw her suffering, so I would go and hold her hand, and she would be like, go down there. I want you to see this. Go down there. I need you to go down there. So I would go down there, and I see it, and I look at her, and she's suffering. I would go back to her. So we had that struggle. Anyway, I decided to stay where I could see the baby coming out. And the doctor said, the head is out, don't push. She was in so much pain, I don't think she heard him. And the nurse was drying his forehead, doing something. And all of a sudden, I saw that the baby was coming out, and I grabbed him. So I got to touch him before the doctor and before my sister.
Aww.
And then, even worse, once they got him clean, they gave him to me. So I was like, oh my goodness, this is almost the closest I can get to being a mom, right?
What an awesome gift, sister.
Yes. And that boy, oh my gosh, he was my son. He was my son. And I say, well, he's still alive and well, but I really was so attached, too attached to him. And I had to make a choice and say, I need to have a separation, because he is not my physical son, even though I behave as though he is.
Right. Oh, I feel you.
Yes. And he would say, I have two moms, and little by little, it's like I had to recognize, it's like he needs to be his mother's son. He is my nephew, and I love him like he is my son, but he is not my son. And so, and every time you have to release something, it's so painful, right? It was a process. And I was like, okay, so now I'm okay. I had to let go in order for him to live as the son of my sister, and that my sister can enjoy him. Right now, he's married, and I had the privilege of officiating the wedding.
Well, awesome. Look at that.
Yes. So, did you have anything to say in between this?
I did. I actually, you're mentioning how kids, gravitate to you. There is one little boy that I actually had, and it really devastated me. I actually met Nick. His name is Nick. We call him Nick. And I met Nick. He was about 2 years old. Had his third birthday with me. And then maybe about 2 years after he's with me, all of a sudden his mom wants to give up all seven of her children.
Oh, wow.
Didn't tell me, so she, make a long story short, he ended up in foster care because she, said that she was going to get him back. They just wanted welfare, just wanted to see him, make sure he's okay. And when I tell you, I was depressed for about 3 months because I couldn't see him. And he wasn't my child though, but to have been in his life for like the past 2 years, and then the foster mom just so happens to like be close to the family. The mom and the auntie had, just fabricated lies against me. Why? I couldn't understand that. But I had to pray, and I literally had to pray and ask God to like change this lady's heart. I need to see Nick, and she finally did. So I was able to, begin to pick him up again on the weekend. And she actually started calling me when he, did certain things, because I was more of like the disciplinary, to be quite honest. When it came to that, her being the foster mom, she just felt maybe, she didn't want to like discipline him. But I told her, you can't allow him to just do anything.
Yes.
So I thank God for being able to continue that relationship, with him. I think Nick is about 13 years old now.
Wow.
So, it's just blessed. And I just want to know for women who does not have kids, right? Sometimes the world can make them feel like, they're unworthy, that they're less, valuable than, a mother who has even just one. But coming from you, what kind of, encouraging words or advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, we always go to God, and I never like to trivialize and make things look or feel like they're not difficult. It is very hard when you have your heart set on something and it's not happening. It's very hard to be comforted. It's very hard to be happy with the choice that you can't make, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say, think of all the children, and not only children, but all the love that you have been able to give people. I think back to myself and I say,
if I had my own children with the experiences that I lived, most probably I wouldn't have time for anybody else, because I would want to suffocate my babies. They would hate me, most probably. Mom, you're suffocating me, right? But let's go back to God. God has a plan.
Yeah.
And although it is not the plan that you wanted, that you prefer, that just reigns in your heart, we need to let go. We need to let go because we don't want to live miserable. Right. We don't want to live a life where there is something that God has not prepared or designed for us, but we still want it so badly. The only thing we're doing with that is hurting ourselves.
It's a process.
It's
going to take time.
Yes.
But believe me, you'll get to the point where you'll be able, even if you're not happy about it, you can accept it and you could move on to love other people. A lot of people ask me, why don't you adopt a child? Why don't you foster a child?
And really, I have been around so many children and dealing with teenagers. Sometimes they say, thank you for the blessing, Lord. Yes, because if I had to deal with 12 teenagers, oh my goodness.
I tell you, I have been asked so many times, why haven't you started a group home? And why don't you do foster kids? And it's like, well, I don't think God has put that on my heart yet. You know, it's like I'm not gonna jump out there and do something that God has not called me to do, you know,
Yes.
but my home, it was that anyway, you know, without me going to say I have a group home. It was that anyway, you know, it was the
Yes.
house, it was the home that all the kids showed up at. And my main reason was just so I can keep an eye out on my son.
Yes.
Honestly, that's how it all started. It didn't start with me saying, "Oh, come on, y'all." No, it just simply started with me wanting to keep my eyes on my child and wanted to know who he was involved with.
Yes.
And I just so happened to be the type of person who simply just loved everybody. I never judged any of them. You know what I'm saying? But I got
Yes.
to know them to the point where I could tell each and every last one of them about, you know, this is what you do. This is what I see from you. Okay, this is what I see you're able to do. This, you know, and to the point where, you know, it's like I know y'all. So it's like you can't tell me what you didn't do. If the principal said you did this, you did it. You know,
Yeah.
so don't lie because this is who you are. So I was able to, like, you know, get to know them in a way that some of their parents didn't, you
Yes.
know, and never in life did I ask any of the parents for any type of, you know, funds or finances. Never.
Yes.
I never claimed any of them on my taxes until they got out of school because I didn't know what their parents were doing. Let me just be honest with you.
Yes.
Once they was out of school, and you know, it's like, okay, y'all still here, y'all going on my taxes. It wasn't anything I was doing illegal, and I'm not just, you know, trying to put my business out there, but I mean that's how it was, and I felt like, okay, Lord, well, I was able to help myself with them as far as taxes is concerned because I was paying
Yes.
their bills. They weren't paying no bills. I was paying,
Yeah.
you know. But let me thank you so much, my dear sister. And I am going to say this. You are more than welcome to return to the Mama Goose Show anytime you get ready.
Yes. I want to say to all these women, and we're not dealing with the men, but I include them in this minute here. Any woman, every girl that is dreaming about having a baby and that is not part of the reality, I just want to send you some love. I honestly pray that the Spirit of God rains upon you in
Yes,
such a way that you feel like the coat of God comes around you and
yes.
hugs you and fills that void that is within you.
Thank you, Jesus.
Because only God can give us the strength to rise, to be the best woman we can, whether we have children or not. Our calling is not dependent of our children or of our abilities. It is only dependent on our obedience and our commitment to God.
Yes, yes.
And if you are called, which we are all called to do something for the kingdom of God,
And you are struggling with not having children,
feeling less than, because sometimes some people would make you feel like you are less than, go to God. God is the only one that holds your worth.
That's right.
No one else can measure your worth because they don't know. As well, when people give you advice or tell you to do this or do that, go to God. Go to God. Go to God, because sometimes we get frustrated with what people might say to us, but we can't listen to what people are saying. Most of the time, people don't even know where we are or who we are. And
they might have your best interest at heart, but it doesn't mean that they have the solution or the answer.
but God always does.
God always does. And on that note,
Yes.
I will leave you guys with my favorite scriptures on that note. Is Jeremiah 29:11. God knows the plans that He has for you.
Yes.
And with that being said, thank you, my dear sister, again for joining the Mama Goose Show. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your prayers. I appreciate your love. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you in person real soon.
Yes.
Thank you. Awesome. And I want to thank all of you for joining us on tonight for a new episode of Mama Goose as we discuss being a mother of many. Though you might not have any children at all you do is just show the love. Just show the love. Amen. And with that being said, be blessed and be a blessing. Love you with the love of Christ, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Amen. God bless.